And next we have a very beautiful panel discussion. This discussion would be around the future of leadership from command to collaboration. This entire session would be moderated by Mr. Murali Santharam, CHRO, Ascent HR Technologies Private Limited. I would request Mr. Murali to come forward and join us here on stage. Can we have a big round of applause for Murali ji? Everybody, come on. And I would also like to invite the rest of the panel members that include Mr. Parth Kumar Thakkar, Senior Manager, Product, Lupin Limited, Ms. Shweta Anand, Manager, Corporate Sustainability, DS Group, and Mr. Ritesh Kumar Sinha, Group CSR Head, Krishna Maruti Limited. Ladies and gentlemen, all the panelists are here. Can we have a big round of applause to welcome them? Come on, everybody. Huge round of applause for Mr. Murali, Mr. Partha Kumar, Mr. Shweta, Ms. Shweta, and Mr. Ritesh. I request each one of you to grab a seat. And Murali, sir, you take this conversation forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Check. Can you hear me? Hello? Hello? Yeah. Thank you very much, Vaishali. Good afternoon, everybody. Hello? Good afternoon. My name is Murali Santhanam. I head HR at Ascent HR Technologies. Today's topic, as we just heard, is about future of leadership, command to collaboration. So we have a panelist, and we have Shweta, who leads the corporate sustainability in DS Group, which is a foods company and FMCG. We have Parth, who handles product marketing for Lupin, one of the drug areas. And we have Nitesh, who handles the CSR at Krishna Maruti, right? So the best part of this conversation is that we have a group of people who are not the run-of-the-mill professions. We have corporate sustainability. It took me many years to understand what corporate sustainability is, and I still don't understand it as much. And we have product marketing, which is at the pharma space, and we have CSR, right? So before I start, what I would like to, I'd like to set the tone. The topic is future of leadership, command to collaboration, collaborative leadership. So the question is it a journey of command to collaboration, or is it a transition of command to collaboration? That's the question. Now, we will use that as a starting point, but before that, I wanted to quickly, tell you about the leadership theories that all of you are aware of. There are multiple theories. I'll pick two: situational leadership and Blake and Mountain leadership model, the grid model. Situational leadership says that your leadership changes based on the situations. How the situation demands your response. The Mountain Blake grid that many of you may be aware has a concern for people, concern for task, and then you're either an impoverished leader right at the bottom, or you're a people champion, or you're a strategic leader, or you're a middle of the road, or you're a taskmaster. There are many leadership models. To be leadership, from a setting the tone context, to be leadership means ownership. Leadership does not come from the position or the chair that we sit in. It comes from within. That's the starting point that I wanted to share. The second thing I also wanted to share was how are we going to differentiate leadership by sectors, by roles, by situations. So we're going to get into that. So having set the context, let me quickly start, and in any order, we'll probably go from Nitesh to tell us the first question, the first observation. So I don't want it to be a question and answer session, but the first observation is the command to collaborative leadership. Is it a journey, or is it a transformation or a transition? I'd like you to share your perspectives, about 2 minutes each.
Thank you very much, Mr. Murali, and I'm very honored and privileged to be the part of such a esteemed panel, as well as I would like to thank FBL for inviting me to share my insight on this very emerging and the future topic of today. So, Mr. Mulli, as you have asked that whether it is a journey or it is a transformation. So I feel that it is a journey that we have traveled across, and in my opinion, it depends upon the several factors. There are many drivers that drive these things, and if we go to the pre-industrial areas and we see, then the first model which we were having were the autocratic model. And I would like to tell why it was, because mostly it was totally controlled model. It was a very rigid model where the most of the thing was based on productivity as well as the profit was the only thing. And slowly when the journey travel and the organization changes from its nature, then there was a shift and we move from transactional model to the transformational model. So the journey and the drivers which were there, that was the most essential point that has led to this process of change. So coming to some of the drivers that I will just tell you about this leadership, the journey was that, first is the complex process, from the simple to the complex process. So today's eras, we are dealing with a very complex process. And for that, it's started from the simple to the complex. So the organization had shifted its focus, and so that this journey has started and we come to the point of the leadership of collaboration. Second point is the globalization. So globalization and diversity, that is the second drivers that has led to this journey, because working across borders demand cross-cultural collaboration and multi-sectoral teams demand inclusive leadership. So now the term has moved from collaboration to more toward the inclusiveness, where we think about the gender, equity, and the things that we required for a collaborative leadership. And if you talk about the nature of the business, which I have told you, that is a much important thing, but because initially the business were productive and profit oriented, but now when we come, we see there are many angles to this. We see sustainability as one of the angles, then we see the way of ethical business is another. So the nature of the leadership has changed and it has gone from the command to the collaborative. Another point which I think that the competition. Now we have a huge competition. So that requires the innovation. And when we require the innovation, then that strives on the collaboration. When we have a diverse ideas that help us to give that help us for the collaboration for bringing the leadership change. And next, which I just want to tell, is the generation shift that we are seeing. That is the another drivers which has led to the journey. So if I talk about the millennials and the Gen Zs, they are most focusing on the flexibility, adaptability, and the nature of the change. So this is the journey which we have seen that has taken. Thank you very much.
Yeah, so what you're saying is it's a journey. Parth, what about you?
See, leadership to my mind is, it is actually a reflection of behaviors. And an individual will have a behavior based on the upbringing that person had. So if I have to, correlate this to a situation, then the generation who was brought up during maybe 1960s to 1990s or even to, the early 2000s, the parenting style, they used to get a couple of slaps for something, done wrong. And that was the kind of, upbringing that everyone had, that, okay, if I'm not doing something right, I'll get something from my parents that, okay, you're not doing right, it's not allowed, you can't do this, or getting a couple of slaps. Now, come to this generation where, maybe a parents in last 10, 20, or maybe 25 years, in this century particularly, those parents have changed completely. They would not give a couple of slaps. They would say, okay, tell me what are the issues that you have. They will have an ear to listen to what problems they have. They would have something as a feedback mechanism, and ultimately that upbringing is different. So because of the upbringing, the generation which had seen command as a model and a modus of leadership has completely changed as collaboration as a new way of leadership. And this is how the shift, the paradigm has completely shifted to the newer thing. If I have to draw a parallel to a little, humorous side or a lighter side, then the mother-in-laws for the ladies in the or a married women in the age group of maybe 45, 50, or 55 today would have seen a mother-in-law who was a stricter one and who was a little different than today's mother-in-law who is getting, getting well along with the newer generation of the bahus. And this is exactly what is happening in the corporate domain as well. So the leadership has been moving from commanding, because commanding gives you an individual intelligence. Commanding gives you a decision making which is individualistic, whereas collaborative will have a collaborative intelligence. And it's a no-brainer that if you have a collaborative intelligence, it would far, would be beyond an individual intelligence. So I think the journey is because of the behavioral shift, because of the generational shift that Ritesh was talking about, and ultimately the challenges and the business need of today's time. So I think it's a journey from command to the collaboration. So it's a, I think, why behind the what.
Exactly agreeing to what Parth said. To me, it's a journey that is taking place due to the transformation of the organizational behavior. If I say that, what's the transformation of the organizational behavior? Earlier, the leadership was all about, as he said, command, that's control, and compliance. Now, moving from the control and compliance, it has taken towards the connectivity, a better collaboration, and an empathy, a psychological safety due to the new generation that has come, and overall a collaborative and a co-creative models that has taken across the corporate. If I say co-creation, whether it's terms of the sustainability goals that businesses are taking, or whether in the terms of the strategic goals, business strategic goals or the business continuity plans that has been taken across the industry, it's not just one vertical, one department or one management that the goals are being taken. It's a collaboration of the different verticals with different departments or the different stakeholders that together go for the business strategy. That's how the transformation has taken. So the transformation is in the culture, transformation is in the way the business strategy is being taken care of, and that's what journey is leading towards. So it's a transformation of the organizational behavior and culture that is making this journey happen. Journey of command to journey of co-collaboration and journey of co-connections.
Okay, great. So I think all two of you were talking about journey and you are talking of transformation. So let's take an example. The reason I'm bringing this example is to check out whether these two styles to check out whether one has to move from one style to the other. So let's take the armed forces, the police, the fire brigade. Command works best. You can't do collaborative leadership there. My dad was in the army and he would say blind obedience. I tell you, march. I know there's a cliff right there, you will fall. I'll tell you to halt. So command leadership is required in certain situations. If you look at the system thinking approach, for example, there are people who have to be given instructions only because their role determines only that much. That's all they can do. There are people for whom you can give execution responsibility. There are people who are system thinkers. So considering all of that, excuse me, considering all of that, we will go with the corporate or our environment. So we leave out the command part of it, which is essential for the armed forces and the police and law order situations. We'll go with the industry, factory environment, our environment. So considering that and taking clue from what I said, please articulate maybe 2 or 3 milieus or environmental scenarios where leadership can flourish, irrespective of whether it's command, collaborative, inclusive? What, in your opinion, would be 2 or 3 situations or factors that can enable leadership to come out from people? Shweta, you want to go first?
Before directly going to the two factors, I wanted to just say that, as you said, command and instructive. Before, in this current scenario, it's not about all instructive. When it was all about instructive, sometimes it was felt that the ideas are not being listened. And when the ideas are not being listened, maybe in the same boardroom or maybe in the same department, there can be some ideas which can come from the lower hierarchy. But not listening to those ideas has sometimes not enabled a proper strategy that could have taken care of. Two factors that has led to the move from instructive and command to better collaboration and is something empathy. And other than the empathy, taking care of the psychological shift of the overall employees that is working in an organization. So the psychological care of the employee well-being is the correct word that I'm saying. And other than the employee well-being, empathy. Empathy in a way directly relates to the employee well-being also. So the empathy and the employee well-being. Employee well-being, if I say, it can be the mental employee well-being or the physical employee well-being at the same time. So employee well-being and empathy are the two most important factors that can shape an organization. And that actually leads from profit to purpose. That gives an organization a purpose. Purpose can be, it's not just about profit, it's giving an organization a continuity that helps to thrive for the coming years, coming across the world. How? If your employees are feeling connected to the organizations, if they have come up with a set numbers of skills, set numbers of years of experience, and if they feel that this organization is something which are taking care of the overall well-being of the employee, they feel connected with the organization, they want to sustain for a longer terms with the organizations, and that can build and shape the strategic roadmap of the organization. So I say that the employee well-being and empathy is the two most important factor that shapes from command to collaboration.
Yeah. Very rightly said, Shweta, that the two important thing is empathy as well as the psychological partner. But I would like to focus on more aspects that is required there. So if the collaboration has to thrive, there are the few more enablers that is required. And the true collaboration isn't just about working together, it's about aligning our values, our vision with the people. So that is one of the important thing. Second is that we should have a shared vision and the participation that comes from the people, and we have to involve them into our decision making. So that is the another point that, and next point is the mutual respect that we should have for our people. That is another aspects that is the enabler in that. And some of the more important things are the trust and the transparency, that how our visions are shared to the people, how transparent we are into our leadership, that how well we are organizing the people properly. Then it's the technology and the tools, that how the technologies and the tools are basically delivering these kind of leadership to the people in the long run. Then organizational culture, which I tell that it's the most important thing that requires the culture of ownership and the mutual responsibility that is very much required, and which help to nurture the collaborative leadership. And as I have already said, the diversity and inclusion of the people into your workforce is very important. And I would like to state some of the examples from the practical aspects of my experience, which tells that if you want to develop a workforce, we should treat them as your family. And we have a practice in our company, present company, in Krishna Maruti Limited, that we do not consider them as our employee, but we consider them as a family members, which is a point of making them being into our mainstream. And Another thing is that we have some of the aspects like we have whenever and intimate that this is the asset that you have given to the company, and this way we basically develop our workforce and make them responsible towards us. Thank you very much.
So collaborative leadership actually requires, as he said, rightly said, that trust. It actually enables the trust in the system, trust in the people, trust around the organization and the way you lead the organization. Another very important aspect is when when you lead with a collaborative stand or a stance, it actually makes the employees feel heard about it. And when you are heard in the organization for your opinion, for everything that you do, you feel very safe and secure at the workplace. When this security and safety sink in the individuals, the retention would be better. If you think from the longevity of an employee perspective, the attrition will go down significantly. And it was proven in one of the Stanford research as well that 64% of the retention is just because they feel that my leadership or my surrounding or my hierarchy listens to us more often than the earlier experiences that we had. So it actually is one of the biggest enabler. And another one is when you lead with a collaborative style, this certainly will have a better outcome, and every organization would be a result-oriented organization. Ultimately, it's all about the outcome. You will have to have a bias towards an outcome rather than just following the process. And when you have that kind of a bias towards an outcome and a result, it only happens well with the acceptance amongst everyone, with the empathy that we talk about, with the acceptance that we talk about. If you have collaborated with your team that, okay, every person feels that why and how are you doing this? If the why is clear in every single person's mind, and that happens only when the questions and answers, when there is a complete dialogue about every single thing that you do, then only it happens. And you were talking about, the military dynamics or the, or the organization similar to military things, where command is the only way. Here also, when you are strategizing, when you are taking a decision, it's not an execution. Decision making is not an execution. When you are executing something, it works well with a blend of, higher amount of command rather than collaboration. But when you are strategizing, when you are making a decisions for any kind of a situation in an organization or anywhere, it's always better when you have a collaborative approach. And I'm not very sure, but at military level also, when they are strategizing the war strategies, they would be certainly listening to all those experiences, all those hierarchies, and making that, okay, this is the plan of action. And at the execution task, you're just going by command.
Great. So we heard a lot of keywords. We heard empathy, we heard psychological setting, shared vision or shared values, involvement, mutual respect, trust, transparency. To me, it seems like we are sitting on some podium and expecting this from our employees or from our colleagues or from our peers. So basically, these are all the things that are required for leadership to flourish. Again, remember what I said. Leadership is not about the chair that you sit or the role that you play. It's in everything that you do. So that's why I called it ownership. Now, considering that point, and all of you are part of some organization, and you all have appointment letters, policies, processes, contracts. Many years ago, this topic also started saying, what kind of a contract, what kind of an engagement you have with your employees or with the people in your organization? Is it a transactional contract? I give you something, you give me something. I pay you for what you do, right? You do well, I'll give you a better rating. If your rating is good, I'll give you a better salary. So it's all transactional. You get where I'm coming from? On the other side is the psychological contract or a psychological engagement, which is the family that Nitesh just talked about, making them feel part of the family, right? I would urge you to read this book called Maverick. Anybody has heard about this book called Maverick by Ricardo Semler? Yeah? That book, I just want to share one small anecdote from that book. Ricardo Semler took over Cushman Wakefield, which is a facility management company. And one of the first things he did was to allow the teams to decide who should be paid what and who should get what rewards. And a budget was given and the team decided who should get what. That's an example of a psychological engagement. Now, coming to the perspective that I want to hear from the panelists, the truth or the fact of the matter is employments are transactional contracts. In view of that being the reality, how can we enable people to have trust, transparency, empathy, and all of this? Would you like to start, Parth?
So, today's time has a different demand. So, as we were talking earlier about the journey from the earlier time of command, the industrial revolution in the early 50s and then later part of the 19th century was when everyone was willing to do whatever it takes to get the shelter, to get those 2 meals a day. Ultimately, it translated into having 2 meals a day and a shelter for everyone in the early 20th century. And now the generation is shifting towards a social security, social status, social stigma, and getting what I want rather than what I deserve. I might be deserving an X amount of salary, but my want is that I should get at least X plus 1.5 or something more. So today's social revolution is making the workforce believe this very strongly, that command would not work and collaboration is something that we are looking forward to. And today's leaders would have to accept this at the face of it, that okay, if I do this, then only my organization would work in a better way. And to practically provide an example, as a sales and marketing professional, we do targeting for sales team across the country. When we do this, we have a brainstorming meetings. And when in the brainstorming meeting, we ask them to prepare their targets, that okay, these are the sales numbers that you should take as your targets for the next year. And these are the parameters based on which you should decide this is the market growth, this is the kind of market you are behaving in, this is the kind of regional analysis, this is the kind of past performance, and all the trends that we provide. And ultimately, when they come along with their targets, we fine tune it, we discuss it, and finally we decide that, okay, this is what your target is. Through the year, we do not face a situation where he says that, hey, I'm given irrational targets. He might not have a performance. He might not have an outcome which was desired. But at that point in time, we are not into an argument, or we are not into a situation where he feels that I was not heard. And this is the kind of examples that is being set in every single situation, every single department of an organization. So this is the kind of collaborative approach ultimately will pay results. And one of the Harvard studies also had proven this, that 4 times outcome is increased when you have a collaborative approach rather than a commanding approach.
Okay. Shweta, you want to go next?
To me, it's building an ecosystem. If I say ecosystem, right from the factory to the boardroom, ultimately, the organization should reflect that the culture is there in the trust, the traceability, the transparency. And if this happens, the traceability, transparency, trust, and empathic factor is reflected everywhere, whether it's in the repeating the same, whether it's in the business strategy, giving preference to the changing consumer preferences, or overall stakeholder engagement, the whole collaborative approach will be automatically taken care of. We don't need to work with an extra effort for the same. If you build an ecosystem that is well incubated in your business, so that's how it should be followed. An ecosystem is required. The cultural shift is required. Overall, a tendency to not to be instructive is to be not to be followed. It's a collaboration that effort has to be followed by the management, and that's all it will shape.
Now, having talked about that, I'd like to probably, how much time do we have? 5 minutes? Okay. So one last question, and I would probably throw some questions out. I'll kind of summarize. But the last piece that I want to kind of talk about or summarize is it expected out of everybody to be a leader? Is it a must that everybody should be a leader? Then who are the followers? Who's going to do the work for you? So a lot of these questions, but I will not get into those details. But basically what I would like to kind of quickly summarize now is, one, what we are hearing from the panel is it's a transformation, it's a journey from command to collaborative leadership. Now command has its own negative intonations. So we will use that meaning for our description. The second thing is specific skills that they talked about was empathy, trust, transparency, involvement, psychological well-being. These were all some of the parameters or factors. The third factor that they talked about is that the industrial revolution, or whatever you call it, today we have moved so far ahead in terms of products, technology, irrespective of which field you are, technology is there. Whether it's FMCG, food, pharma, or even corporate social responsibility, or HR, or any field, you have that shift happening. So having said that, I want to kind of quickly summarize saying that it seems to me that there is an existence of command style in organizations which have been successful. It works for them. So that's a situational leadership kind of theory. And there is a collaborative leadership that people would like to have. And collaboration and leading somehow from a perspective of words don't go together, right? So are we trying to get something? So this is just amusing. I want to throw it back to the audience to see if you have any views. Are we trying to create a leadership model that will never exist? And that's point number one, and I'd like to ask you that question. Second is it required for everybody to be a leader? Any thoughts from the audience just before I go back and summarize?
Any inputs? Yeah.
I would like to share my thoughts. So I feel we don't have to have a leadership model at all. It can't be a fixed process document like your SOP, right, which it has to be followed by this way. So right, it has to be, it has to come from within. Okay. You have to be an example for how your followers have to follow you. Right. Followers not necessarily on social media, but they can also be your own teammates. Right. So that's the first question. The second question, not everybody needs to be a leader. Yeah. We need people to execute also. Yeah. So that's, yeah, and you need individual contributors. And if you take pharma as an example, where research laboratories are there, scientists are there, or even our AI experts, they lead in their own space. So instead of diluting the word leadership, because you can lead in anything that you do, but good point. Thank you for that that view. So anything else? Anybody else?
Hi, thank you. It was actually a very insightful discussion. Just probably a little bit to add. With the changing times, like all of you discussed, I think there's no consistent model of leadership that we need to follow. There's something called as situational leadership. And on the basis of people that you're dealing with, the situation that you deal with, you adapt to that leadership style. So there's no consistent model. And I'm personally a people leader myself. And the number of people that I manage come from different countries, different regions, geographies, and diversity, right? You cannot manage all of them with same model, same approach.
Yeah.
You're not going to succeed, right? So you have to adapt as a leader, and with every situation and people, you need to change your leadership style. My view on the second subject, whether everybody has to be a leader, is different. Leadership is not just people management. Leadership is also about taking lead in different situations, in different circumstances. So as a professional, if you would really want to grow, you may have to take that lead in different circumstances, not necessarily leading people. And then there are some people who would not prefer to take lead, probably follow. That can also coexist, because like ma'am rightly said, that you also need executioners, but you also need leaders who will stand up in different circumstances, different scenario. It's not necessarily about people leadership. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. I think the common thread that I hear is, it's a horses for courses approach, situational. And your leadership should emerge based on the situation. So thank you, all of you. Appreciate
I
it.
want
Any
to add,
last comment that each one of you would like to add?
I want to just continue from what she said. In a collaborative approach that we are talking here, leadership is all about being your own leader in your own space where you are working. So it's leadership can be an individual contributor.
Sure, absolutely.
So that's all. Collaborative approach is actually being a
that's
leader
what she
in your
was
own.
also saying. Yeah,
Exactly what she said.
Yeah.
Being a collaborative and command. The difference between collaborative and commanding is exactly in the leadership style. Here the leadership style is being a leader in your own space, being the leader in your as an individual contributor, being the leader as a team lead at the same time. So that's the difference between collaborative and a command approach. To summarize, yeah.
Any your summary, quick two-line summary?
A one-liner summary would be, leadership is not a single malt, it's a blended scotch.
Okay. I like that.
So in my opinion, leadership, what I feel is that people need to follow you, even if you have, even they have the option not to follow you. That is a leadership, that is a role model that you have to show to them. And second aspect which I want to tell you is that leaders need to manage the successes as well as the failures. So they have to, the true leader is one, collaborative leaders. They can own the failures, but can share the success to everyone. So this is my.
Okay, great. Thanks a lot for your closing comments. And I think I wanted to close with that one comment, saying that a leadership is not, a failure in achieving an objective when you lead something does not mean you're not a good leader. Or a success that you've achieved being a leader need not necessarily mean you're a good leader. I just want to leave that thought because it's like two sides of a coin, right? There are situations that you are in which make you succeed. There are situations where you get success happening or it fails. So a very important point, the last closing point that was given was, leaders must be adept at managing success and failure with equal elan. Okay, so thank you so much. Thank you so much, Shweta, Parth, and Nitesh. Thanks a lot for your time, and I really appreciate your perspectives. I picked up a lot of new perspectives, and I hope the participants also picked up. Thank you very much for your additional points too. It was great moderating the session. It's great meeting all of you. Look forward to catching up over coffee. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. That was an amazing discussion, ladies and gentlemen. Big round of applause for all the panel members and for our moderator. And we actually honor you. We want to honor you, and that is why I would request my team Please bring the memento. We want to felicitate all the panel members. So I would be requesting Murali sir, you kindly come forward and kindly felicitate Partha Kumar Thakkar ji. So, ladies and gentlemen, that was a very enlightening panel discussion around the future of leadership from command to collaboration. I would request Murali sir. Yeah. So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so very much once again for being such a wonderful audience. Up next, we have another panel discussion, but before that, I would request, can we have the memento, please? Please hand it over to Murali sir. And I would request Murali sir to present this memento to Mr. Partha Kumar Thakkar. Big round of applause. Come on, everybody. Thank you so much, Partha sir, for sharing your expertise with us here. Thank you. Next, I would request Shweta Anand ma'am, kindly come forward to accept this felicitation. Thank you so much, Shweta ma'am, for sharing your inputs with us here at the Fortune Leadership Award. Can we have a bigger round of applause? Come on, everybody. थोड़ी सी energy और डालेंगे. Requesting Ritesh Kumar Sinha sir. Oh, I'm so sorry. Partha sir. Thank you so much, sir. We would like to extend our gratitude for this wonderful, wonderful participation into this discussion. And now I would request Ankit Joshi